Hello, very good morning and welcome to Athavan newspaper highlights. Today is Sunday, 8th of May 2016. This is Edward Udedas Tavasagayam Pillai with the highlights of today's newspapers. Today we have three leading newspapers of Sri Lanka for the highlights: the Sunday Times, the Sunday Observer and the Ceylon Today. Firstly, let's have a look on the Ceylon Today. The main headline of the Ceylon Today says, Government to repeal PTA. UN rapporteurs briefed on new laws. The government told United Nations Special Rapporteurs Monica Pinto and Juan E. Mendes in Colombo that it was framing three new laws, namely the National Security Act, Law on Organized Crimes and Law on Surveillance and National Intelligence, to replace the Prevention of Terrorism Act shortly. Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and on the Independence of Judges and Lawyers Monica Pinto and Special Rapporteur on the Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment Juan E. Mendes announced this at a media briefing at the UN Colombo office yesterday. We have not seen the draft of these three pieces of planned legislation the government spoke of, but various aspects of the drafts have been disclosed to us. Some initial proposals have been dropped while others are still under consideration. We hope the drafts will be presented relatively soon and eventually submitted in Parliament, Mendes said. Another highlight says, VAT increase, not as black as it is painted. Per minute mobile phone charges up by 23 to 45 cents. Kottu fried rice, chopsy, deviled meat by 10 rupees. Bakery products increased by 5 rupees. Another May Day has come and gone. Political parties and their affiliated trade unions were in a fierce competition to outdo each other by attracting the biggest number of supporters. The question was who drew the biggest numbers, whether it was the organizers of the rallies held in Galle or Kirlapon, or whether it was the UNP. However, those who celebrated the Workers' Day on May 1 were slapped with a significant increase in the value-added tax the following day. Most consumers were left confused how the VAT increase worked out. Neither the government nor the opposition accurately explained the numbers. The government showed increasing numbers while the opposition was showing increasing numbers. No one offered the exact charges. In the practice of goods that are already drowning, consumers would have to battle from now on. The basic explanation was that VAT has been increased to 15% whereas it was 11% earlier. One indicator of the VAT increase is the increase in the telephone bill. This is a change that has already affected the consumers. Secondly, let's move to the Sunday Observer. The main headline of the Sunday Observer says, Asylum seekers sent from Cocos Islands held in Sri Lanka. The 12 Sri Lankan asylum seekers deported from Australia's Cocos Island have been taken into police custody in Colombo. The group, which included a woman, a child and an infant, were flown back on a chartered flight from the island on Thursday. The Australian government declined to comment on the arrival of the boat carrying the asylum seekers to Cocos or the group's rapid removal, saying the government does not comment on water matters. The group was taken from the airport directly into CID custody. Laxman Soisa, an immigration and immigration media spokesman, told the local press that all deportees were arrested on arrival and handed over to the CID. Media reports said some members of the group had tried to reach Australia previously. Another highlight says, bid to avoid sanctions for joining UPFA rebel May Day rally. SLFP rebels on peace talks with party bosses. In a bid to stave off party disciplinary action for attending the rebel UPFA breakaway May Day rally, the dissident SLFP parliamentarians in the UPFA rebel group have begun talks with senior SLFP leaders to work out an amicable settlement. Party senior told the Sunday Observer yesterday that overtures had been made by the rebels and that discussions had begun through informal channels. Another highlight says Lanka to play key role in international anti-graft body. The government will play a key role to set up an international corruption body at the Anti-Corruption Summit in London next week. President Maithripala Sirisena is due to leave for London on May 11 to attend the summit initiated by the UK government. British Prime Minister David Cameron extended an invitation to the Sri Lankan government to attend the event when the two leaders met at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Malta last year. With that, let's move to the Sunday Times. The main headline of the Sunday Times says EU links human rights to trade. 58 conditions for GSP+. Human Rights Action Plan, etc. called for talks in Brussels next week. In its haste to regain the GSP Plus facility, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has agreed with the European Union to implement a sprawling list of 58 conditions linking human rights, national security, and other domestic concerns with trade, a document obtained by the Sunday Times shows. Among the 58 conditions imposed are to revoke the Prevention of Terrorism Act, to expedite cases of remaining detainees, to introduce a new Human Rights Action Plan, review the status of the Tamil diaspora organizations and individuals on the terrorist list, to devolve power under the new constitution, return all private lands to owners in the north, adopt a policy of national reconciliation and on national resettlement, finalize the resettlement of all displaced persons, and to ratify the Convention of Enforced Disappearances with accompanying legislation as well as issue certificates of absence. The EU insists that all conditions be met before Sri Lanka can even consider applying for the GSP+. Another highlight says torture still continues. UN rapporteurs slam CID-TID. Two United Nations special rapporteurs yesterday accused the Criminal Investigations Department and the Terrorism Investigation Divisions of using torture as a common practice in their probes. Juan E. Mendes, the rapporteur on torture and other cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment or punishment, and Monica Pinto, rapporteur on the independence of judges and lawyers, told a new conference at the end of a 10-day visit that despite a decrease in the number of reported cases of torture, the practice of interrogation under physical and mental coercion still exists and severe forms of torture continues to be used. Torture is a common practice carried out in relation to regular criminal investigations by the CID. In cases where there is a real or perceived threat to national security, there is a corresponding increase in act of torture and ill treatment during detention and interrogation in TID facilities, Mr. Mendes said. With that, let's come to an end of today's paper highlights. We will come with more news tomorrow morning. Thanks for listening to Athavan Newspaper Highlights.